Today's TED topic, again, is online services and clouds. Our agenda is going to cover what software applications are. We're going to review that a little bit because that's really one of the reasons and how we connect a lot to online services. We're going to talk about data, the files that we work with, that our software applications work with. And then we're going to talk a little bit about local apps and data. Local meaning what runs on your computer without the need for an internet connection. And then we're going to talk about cloud apps and data. And that has changed a lot of things for us and how we work and how we do things. So that's our agenda for today. And we'll walk through these things step by step. We'll do a little review of the material that we covered before in the other foundations class. We use technology to do things. Technology is a tool, just like appliances are a tool, car is a tool for transportation, a bicycle is a tool, a pan for cooking things on a stove is a tool, a screwdriver or hammer is a tool, and technology is a tool. We use it to connect, to create, to learn, to manage information, for travel, for work, or applications and entertainment. And these are just some of the applications. That's why we use it, is to do these things. And we do it with software applications, and we do it with devices, and we do it with services. And I kind of described these basics in the first part of the foundation series. We're going to go more into services and software apps today and how they relate to each other and how our devices take advantage of them. So as I mentioned, software apps are like tools. They're the recipes for our computers. They tell our computers how to do things. So tools like a scissors or a spatula or spoon or a vise or a clamp or something like that. And we use these with applications like calendar and mail and messaging. These are such common applications. They tend to show up everywhere on every device. And lots of times the operating system that the company we bought the equipment from provides a lot of these basic applications as part of the operating system because these are used by so many people. Our devices have to do with smartphones and tablets and computers and smartwatches. These are the physical things we touch and use to actually run our applications. And applications are software instructions for our devices. They tell our devices what to do. And so our devices and our software applications work together pretty closely to help us do the things we want to do with our technology. Services are resources. Services are things we get done for us, like a car mechanic does a car repair, a concert performer produces a concert, a medical professional gives us medical care, a restaurant serves us food. So these are services, and there are services provided for us outside of our local computer that are available to us on the cloud and on the internet. And we take advantage of them. Some of them are email. Email is a service that we get from an email service provider. We have an app that uses the service, but our email account is actually a service that we get. We have a cellular phone service that we get from a cellular provider, and we actually get that provided for us, and we pay a subscription for it. Email is usually free, but some people pay for an email service. Our cellular phone service is a tool we pay for. The internet we get at home, our internet service provider that provides our wired connection, is a service we get. They provide a service of getting us from our home devices out to the internet and back again. Clouds are services, Apple, Microsoft, Google, and then the next session of the foundations, we're going to talk about how each of those work in terms of ecosystems to provide various services. And streaming is a service. We often use Netflix, Amazon Prime, HBO, etc. So we get a lot of things that aren't physically on our computer or are a service that's not something physical. They might give us like an internet modem or a router for our home, but we don't actually, it's not really what we're paying for. We're paying for the movement of information back and forth and the ability to get to the internet. That's what the service is that they provide. So that's an example of a service. Now, we often have forgotten these days about local information. So I want to review what local versus online. There was a time in our day where we worked with things like floppy disks, and that meant we physically had information or data or computer files in our hands. And we had one computer that we had at a desk or a location in our home, and it did not have any kind of connection to the internet. And so internet connections have improved over time so that we got dial-up, we got something called DSL at one time, then we got fiber and cable, and now we have pretty much high-speed internet via our internet service providers and also from our cellular companies. So our cellular companies like Rogers and Verizon and T-Mobile, they can get us to the internet. Our internet service providers can get us to the internet as well. So there's a difference between when we're using the internet to get to something and when we have something physically on our devices. And physically on our devices is often referred to as local, meaning you don't need an internet connection to do something with that data or application if it is local. So a local application runs on a device. It's installed on the device and it uses data on the device as well. And so you don't need an internet connection to run certain types of software. You can still go and buy a copy of Microsoft Office that runs on a computer that does not use cloud data. It's still possible to do that. And so some software applications do that. If you are traveling and you want to do something like use the reminders app on your Mac, or you want to use a note on your phone, or you want to use something on your Samsung, device, you don't always need to have an internet connection. Maybe you downloaded a game from the App Store and you want to play a game on your phone, or you downloaded a Netflix video and you want to watch a movie while you're flying somewhere. That is an example of local data that the software is using that's just on your device. No internet connection required. It can be on your desktop, on your laptop, on your tablet, on your smartphone, something like a word processor, as I mentioned, some like a downloaded video. And the difference being is that if you download the video, like the movie, Amazon Prime and Netflix and others let you do this, you actually have it in your local storage. You do not have to worry about getting to the internet in order to get that video and watch it, or to get to that document and edit it. It is on your device, both the application and the data that's associated with that application, because Netflix is an application and the data is the video. Microsoft Word is an application and the data is a Word document. So all of our devices have the ability to store local data in their local storage and run an application on on the device that doesn't necessarily require it to access the internet. So that's used to be all we used our computers for, was local apps. And we would go to the store, we would buy an application, it would come in a box with, a dozen floppy disks, and we'd load them into our computer and install the app, and we'd have storage on our hard drive, and that would be how we used our computers. What's changed is the cloud. The cloud got easier and easier and easier to use, and it gives us the ability to use what is called an online app, meaning There is data that is stored in a computer data center somewhere in the cloud. And a data center is simply a building with a lot of computers that's run by some company, usually Apple, but also Facebook and Google and Amazon and Microsoft all run data centers that store data. Some of them have software services that we can use. How do we get to this data and the software service out in the cloud online? We use the internet to accomplish it. And our device would have a software application that would understand how to communicate with the cloud service and the data. So they are connected to each other when they have an internet connection. So when we use Google Maps, for example, you don't have to know the internet address or where on the internet the Google Maps systems are that are being able to give you access to the maps. The app on your device knows how to use the internet to get to the Google Maps service that Google runs. So that's where an app comes in. The app has some intelligence that it knows where to go to. Facebook is a really good example of an online app. You have a device like a smartphone or a computer, and you have a Facebook application that runs on your device. But all of your information, your contacts, your friends, your pages that you view, and things like that, that's all actually in the cloud, in Facebook's data centers. Your data is personal for your account, so Facebook knows what you want to see when you open up Facebook, but your Facebook application on your device connects up to the Facebook service and gives you data that Facebook sends back to you over the internet so you can view it on your device and use it. Your Facebook data is not really local because when you open up Facebook or Instagram or a social network, you're getting what's happening right now. We're getting what's happening most recently. Websites are tools that work on the internet as well, and we use an application called a browser. When we go to a website, we use an application called a browser on our device to access the service and its data on the cloud. Websites exist on the cloud, somewhere on the internet, in various data centers. Their information is a file that has maybe graphics and text and maybe videos or something like that in it. And the website manages all that data and determines how it gets displayed in our browser. Some websites, like shopping carts, are pretty complicated, but they communicate to our browser. So if you're shopping for something on, say, Amazon, Amazon keeps track of your records, your purchases, your items you viewed, and all of the inventory and products that are available to search for on Amazon. If you go to a newspaper or you go to a library, they're providing you with the service to be able to get to their data, and you use a browser on a device to do it. So browsers are the application that display website pages on your device. And most web devices come with a built-in browser. Apple makes Safari, Google makes Chrome, Microsoft makes Edge, and there are others out there as well. But a browser is such a commonly used application, but it gets you connected over the internet to websites that have information that you can then access and use. Cloud data, like cloud storage, like OneDrive or Apple iCloud or Google Drive, that's data that is set aside in a space for you that the cloud storage service provides you. So a cloud storage service like Google Drive says, oh, okay, I'll give you so much storage space. And you might have an app on your device, or you might have a browser. The common element is that the service and the data are stored in the cloud. So it doesn't matter whether you access that data through a web browser on a computer or an app on a device. or you could even access it on another device, a second device. So you can get to your data in the cloud through a tablet, a smartphone, another smartphone, a computer, another computer, and the data is the same no matter how you get to it in the cloud, because the data is what's stored in the cloud. The service, the storage service, gives you the ability to access it using tools like apps and browsers wherever you're located. Maps, as I mentioned maps before, it's a really good example of information that's stored in the cloud that we get to through service, but we can get to it through an app on a device, or we can get to it through a website on a desktop. The tool we use on our devices is basically giving us the ability to connect to the service. And so once we connect to the service with our application on our device, whether it's an app or we're going to go to a browser and get to the website, we have the ability to get to that information and use it the same way, no matter what device we have. Email is another example of a service that's provided for us. We get a Gmail account, a Yahoo, Hotmail, wherever we have an email account. Our emails are typically stored in the database that's run by the data center of the email service. The service gives us the ability to get to our emails over the internet, either through a website or through an app that we can download to a device. And the service is what determines whether an app is available or we need to go through a website. But they're available, and you're getting to the same emails because the data is stored here and has the ability to be synchronized with our devices. And that's one of the things the cloud does for us. So there's a lot of cloud apps. There's Maps, there's Facebook, there's online banking. I mean, whether you access your online banking account from a phone or a computer, your balance is the same, right? I mean, you have the same amount of money in your bank account. And that's maybe a good way to help you understand that the cloud data is the same data no matter how you get to it. You're just using different devices and an app to get to it. Lots of online banks provide an app that you can download to your phone, but you can also get to your bank account through a website by going to the website. Your balance is the same, your transaction record is the same. It's just you're using a different device and a different application to get to that online service. If web browsers work so well, why in the world would we want to actually consider using an app? What does an app do for us? So smartphones are intelligent computers, and we have the ability to download and install apps from app stores on our smartphones. Now, some services have taken advantage of the fact that our smartphones have the ability to store information locally, but they have data that they keep in the cloud. So somebody like Apple Maps and Google Maps gives you the ability to actually download a map and store it locally on your device, so that if you don't have this internet connection, or it breaks, or you're in an area where you can't get it, maybe you're hiking, you still have a local map stored in the memory on your phone that you can use. And so some apps keep some data locally and give you the ability to do that, whereas some apps do not. It depends on the app, but it becomes so transparent to us that sometimes we don't know, is the data in the cloud or is the data on my phone? Because we're usually connected so much. But if you lose that internet connection, you'll learn very quickly whether you can use the app's functionality locally on your phone or on your computer through a web browser won't update any information without an internet connection. So that internet connection becomes critically. And fortunately for us, we have very high speed, very reliable internet connections most of where we are. But an app serves another purpose. A lot of companies make an app that you can install on your smartphone, even though they work on a web browser on your computer. So some of the reasons they make an app is that it fits this vertical format screen better. A screen is shaped a little bit different on our phone than a desktop screen is when we look at it. A an app on your phone can use hardware in your device. A map app can take advantage of the fact that your phone has a GPS chip and can tell the map where you're located. An Uber app can take advantage of your location. A cooking app can take advantage of your altitude with the barometer that's built into your phone. So an app that lets you add pictures like Facebook or Instagram gives you the ability to use the camera on your app. So the app can take advantage of hardware you might have on your phone that you might not have on a desktop because phones are made by a company and you don't have to worry about, what comes with an Apple phone or a Samsung or a Google Pixel. They come pretty much manufactured the same way. There might be a little faster performance if you have an app installed because the app can do things locally and you have the ability to do these things like downloading maps, downloading recipes, downloading other things, documents you might want to keep locally on your phone, downloading photos. So you have the ability to keep things. That's why companies create apps for smartphones. And a lot of it makes it easier to navigate because our finger is a little bit bigger than a cursor on a mouse. If you move a cursor on a mouse, it can be pretty small. But if you move your finger is going to take up a certain amount of space on your screen, you're going to need to tap it. Now, the great thing about apps and how we use them, I've kind of mentioned a few things about that, is that apps that work with cloud services have the ability to synchronize data, which is great. We used to not have this ability, but now we do. I don't know if you remember old days, like when you had something like an iPod, and we before we had the internet and Apple Music in the cloud. And if you wanted to get music from your computer to your iPod, you had to connect a cable, and the cable would be the way we would download information from our computer to our iPod device. Thankfully, we have internet connections now that are really usable. So it's possible to have data associated with an app on your device that synchronizes with the service. The service and the app communicate with each other to make the data on your device match up with the data in the cloud. And if you bring on a second device, say you have an app on your phone and you want to use a browser on your desktop, the browser might work with some local data or store some local data, but it synchronizes with the service in the cloud to make sure that the data is the same no matter what device you use and where you get to it. You could add a third device, you could add a fourth device. The intelligence in the service and its apps and how it works with it will make sure that all of your data is updated as long as you have this internet connection. A sync, let's take Google Docs. You get to Google Docs, you have a document stored in Google Docs. It's in the cloud in Google Drive, but you can see it on your smartphone with a Google Docs app or Google Drive app. You can see it on your computer through a web browser. The same document is there. And if you download it, the service and the app functionality give it the ability to synchronize and update the information in the cloud, which will update any other device that's connected to your account over the internet. So it makes it easier for us to carry information with us wherever we are, no matter what device we use. And that's one thing that online services and cloud capability gives us the ability is we are no longer tethered to a desktop and having to have local data. Because if you wanted to move a photo in the old days from one computer, say in your bedroom, to another computer you had in your living room or another part of your home, you had to physically make a copy of that photo, put it on a disk drive of some sort, a floppy disk or a flash drive, and walk over to the other computer, install it, and then copy it onto the other computer's storage. You make a change on one computer in the photo, the change is not synchronized on the first computer. So you now have two different versions of the photo or two different versions of a document. And that became called popularly sneakernet because you would have to physically walk the media from one device to another. But these services in the cloud with the ability to synchronize information give us the ability to keep information synchronized and matched up no matter what device we're using to get to it. And that's one of the benefits of the cloud. And what has changed things about the cloud and how we're using technology is it's introduced all these services that we use. And you'll find a lot of companies increasingly are not offering local applications only. They might have a local app that gives you the ability to run the app on your device, but it might be connected to a service that they provide. So somebody like Adobe provides online subscription applications. Microsoft provides 365. Apple, provides services with iCloud and online photo storage. So our apps and our devices and our services all increasingly work together to make it possible for us to do a lot of things that weren't possible in the past and were more complicated and more complex. What's next in our Tech Explorer Foundation series? I'm going to explain to you next week the ecosystems or what an ecosystem is, but also we're going to take a look at Apple's and Microsoft's and Google's ecosystems and how they work and how they support their business as an organization, because increasingly our services come from those types of organizations that we get. The apps we use, the services we use, and the date where we keep our data is coming from those three companies. And I think that'll help explain a little bit more about how to do it. Thank you, everybody, for coming today.